San Diego shook like a rattling coffin in the dark hours before sunrise, and nobody understood why. People woke thinking the world was ending as windows shattered and furniture crawled across wooden floors. Dogs barked wildly at the ocean, refusing to go near the shoreline. Fishermen stared at the sea and swore they could hear something alive underneath, a heartbeat too slow and too powerful to belong to any human or machine. The Navy sent boats to investigate, but one never returned, and the second came back ripped open, crewless, with claw marks that glowed. At dawn, steam exploded across the Pacific as the water boiled. A towering shadow rose higher than any skyscraper, dripping black water from scales as wide as houses. Red eyes opened, burning like two suns. People screamed, cars crashed, and phones died as tremors shook the coastline apart. Godzilla stood, chest heaving, unleashing a roar that cracked windows across 3 cities. In that single roar, America understood it was not hearing an animal. It was hearing a king reclaim his kingdom. Streets flooded with terrified crowds trying to escape, but there was nowhere to run. The nightmare had found land, and it came hungry. Godzilla marched north along California's coastline, every step shaking highways and flipping cars like toys. Entire beaches collapsed into the ocean as tidal waves followed his path. Military jets flew overhead, launching missiles that sparked against his armored hide without leaving a scratch. When Godzilla breathed atomic fire, the sky turned blue and white, and the jets melted midair. Exploding oil tanks behind him lit the horizon like hell's sunrise, covering retreating crowds in ash. Survivors hid under fallen bridges and crushed subway tunnels, listening to the monster's thundering footsteps. Children cried into their parents' shoulders, and the smell of burning rubber and sea salt filled the air. Reporters broadcast shaking footage that captured nothing but a tail longer than a stadium and a roar that almost drowned out their voices. One camera kept rolling after its operator fell, capturing soldiers running toward the monster and vanishing in flames within seconds. America realized it had never built anything strong enough to stop this creature. Every emergency siren rang at once. Electricity failed as Godzilla stepped through power lines, turning cities silent. Panic spread faster than fire as people asked the same question. What if this wasn't even his full power? Washington, D.C. turned into a war room as officials fought panic with shaking hands. The president ordered National Guard deployment, but every officer knew they were throwing bodies at a mountain of teeth. Godzilla didn't seem interested in destruction for pleasure. He acted like something was calling him deeper inland. Scientists learned he was tracking radiation like a shark tracks blood. That discovery terrified the nation. Nevada's nuclear plant glowed on satellite maps like a feast, and millions were ordered to evacuate. Desert highways clogged with cars, and desperate families abandoned vehicles to run on foot beneath burning sunlight. The further Godzilla traveled, the more unstable the land became. Sinkholes opened, buildings folded, and telephone poles cracked in half. News anchors trembled while reporting the truth. America's government had no strategy capable of denting the monster. The military dropped bunker, buster bombs that only annoyed him, and drones were reduced to molten scraps. In the chaos, crime erupted everywhere. Looters filled streets, sirens never stopped, and hospitals overflowed. Rumors spread that the monster's roar was causing hallucinations. People swore they saw shadows as tall as cities moving behind him. A single phrase repeated across every home: "This isn't war, it's extinction." Scientists studying Godzilla sent drones close enough to see his shifting body, and what they discovered split the world with fear. His skin was changing, growing jagged spikes of bone that pulsed with inner heat like volcanic rock. Patterns glowed beneath his scales, turning crimson then gold, as though his body was preparing for a transformation no one could predict. Worse, survivors near him suffered horrifying mental breakdowns. They reported vivid nightmares before collapsing, visions of drowning beneath teeth, of black oceans swallowing America whole, and of cities screaming underwater. Psychiatric wards filled in every state. People who never saw Godzilla insisted they could hear his roar shaking inside their skulls. Suicide rates rose, and priests claimed the monster gave off a presence darker than nature, a judgment walking the earth. Scientists tried explaining it. Maybe Godzilla was releasing a frequency affecting the human brain. But some whispered he was evolving into a higher predator, one that killed not just flesh, but hope. Panic spiraled when the Pentagon released infrared footage. Godzilla's chest cavity was reshaping, creating organs engineered for greater destruction. As night fell across America, millions lay awake afraid to sleep, because dreams now belonged to the monster. Las Vegas never imagined becoming a graveyard of melted glass and skeleton towers, but Godzilla arrived with thunder in his steps. Casinos emptied as alarms wailed, neon lights flickering against crimson dust clouds. Thousands sprinted through fire tornadoes, swirling between crumbling buildings. Helicopters tried lifting tourists from rooftops, but Godzilla swatted them down like flies, metal raining across the Strip. Fremont Street turned into a river of flame. Godzilla paused, sniffing the air, sensing something beneath the Luxor pyramid. Soldiers swarmed the casino's basement tunnels to protect whatever they were hiding, but no weapon slowed the Titan. He smashed through stone walls, revealing a buried reactor designed to power military experiments. Radiation poured into the air, and Godzilla fed greedily, steam pouring from his mouth. The city screamed, buildings bending from his weight. Gamblers abandoned winnings forever, fleeing barefoot over broken glass. Tourists filmed through tears, recording history no one wished to remember. Moments before escape, the pyramid split in half and collapsed into a glowing crater, burying thousands. When the fires died down and ash settled across the desert, Las Vegas became silent. Only Godzilla's heavy breathing remained, echoing through the ruined Strip like a drum announcing doom. New York felt the roar before the monster even arrived, a bone, deep vibration shaking every window and subway tunnel. People thought it was thunder until a tidal wave crashed against Manhattan shores, swallowing parks and cars. The Statue of Liberty became a weapon as Godzilla ripped her from her pedestal and hurled her into skyscrapers, glass raining like deadly snow. Chaos erupted instantly, bridges flooded with fleeing crowds, taxis abandoned mid-street, alarms shrieking from every direction. The military made its last stand here. Jets screamed across the sky firing missiles into Godzilla's chest, but he barely reacted. Tanks rolled through Times Square only to be crushed beneath his claws. Firefighters fought collapsing buildings while thousands ran choking on smoke and dust. The U.S. launched its final nuclear missile straight into Godzilla's mouth. The explosion shook the world, buildings collapsed as deafening silence followed. But when the smoke cleared, Godzilla stood larger, glowing brighter, feeding on radiation like food. New York looked up at the beast and saw not defeat, but evolution. People wept, believing the end had finally arrived. Sirens died out as flames devoured the skyline, and Godzilla roared again, announcing to the world that America was now his domain. Half of the United States became a wasteland, roads empty, cities hollow. Smoke choked the sky until sunlight vanished across entire states. Millions fled with nowhere to go. The government collapsed into military rule, broadcasting hopeless warnings. Scientists uncovered new terror beneath New Orleans. Massive underground tunnels filled with pulsating eggs the size of trucks, glowing beneath hot mud. Godzilla was not alone, he was building a dynasty. If those eggs hatched, humanity would not survive a month. Panic turned violent. Some citizens formed armed mobs trying to destroy nests, but the tunnels swallowed them whole. The Pentagon warned that Godzilla protected the region with electromagnetic waves, so strong drones disintegrated midair. Nightmares worsened. People saw tiny versions of Godzilla crawling across their walls and ceilings. Mental hospitals overflowed. America felt like a graveyard breathing fumes of death. Survivors whispered that the oceans moved differently, as if more monsters were already rising. Journalists documented sinking lands, spreading earthquakes, and radioactive rain falling over southern states. Everyone knew the truth. This was not a monster invasion. It was the birth of a new world, shaped by Godzilla's bloodline, and there was nothing left to stop it. Jackson Ward, once a soldier with a family, wandered alone through the ruins of his nation. His wife and son died in the Las Vegas collapse, and every step he took echoed with grief. When the government offered volunteers for a one-way mission, he stepped forward without hesitation, carrying an oxygen destroyer bomb strapped to his back. He marched through New Orleans' sinking streets, ignoring skeleton buildings and floating corpses. Thunder roared as Godzilla towered above the nest, roaring at the sky like a king calling storms. Jackson crawled underground, clutching the bomb as slime dripped from pulsing eggs. Memories crushed him with every heartbeat, but he kept moving. He triggered the device beneath Godzilla's feet, whispering a prayer as the blinding flash erupted. The explosion shook the earth, shattering bridges and ripping apart the nest. When the smoke faded, Jackson lay still, smiling through blood. Godzilla turned, wounded but alive, staring at the last human challenger. Their eyes locked, defiance against destiny. Godzilla roared with thunder, the sound stretching across ruined America. Jackson died knowing the monster remained. The screen of the world cut to black hope, silent, future unknown, civilization erased beneath the shadow of a single unstoppable beast.